He finds himself whisked away to a completely different realm, all on his own, where he must battle monsters and goblins just to make it through each day. Yet, nothing really changes. Back in his own world, Haru is just as much of a lonely outcast, with a future as bleak as the depths of space. No one ever noticed him, as he never quite fit into any of the cliques. There were the mean delinquents, the popular girls, the followers of the so-called Sigma Sam Sulek, the awkward, sweaty nerds, and the uptight good girls. Resting his head on the desk once more, he feels the weight of being a misfit in this world when suddenly, his classmates erupt into chaos, their eyes glued to a shimmering golden circle that appears in the classroom. Since Haru is a dweeb just like you all, he has already read all the mangas and knows that they're going to get transported to another world, but it's too much work for him, so he decides to bail and literally tries to walk away from the situation. Unfortunately, the door is shut tightly by Flex Seal, so even with a lot of damage, he can't break the door to escape. Soon the magic circle covers the entire classroom, and slowly the students start getting sucked in. But Haru has watched way too many Mission Impossible movies, and he jumps up the air duct to escape. Luck is not on his side, though, as the circle enters the air duct and sucks him into a white, endless void. He looks around, wondering where the hell is his entire class, and waits for an ugly-ass king with a smoking hot daughter to greet him, but nothing happens. He soon spots an old man running towards him and trying to interact in sign language for some reason. Somehow Haru manages to understand the old man as he realizes that all his classmates were summoned before him and transported to a different world after choosing a special skill. The old man tells him to follow as he needs to choose a skill as well. Out of 50 skills, 43 have already been chosen, so there are no cheat skills available anymore. He realizes that he'll have to take a lame-ass skill and somehow survive in the new world. His hopes and dreams shatter once again when he notices that a jellyfish has better skills than the ones remaining for him. He starts shaking the old man like a maraca, shouting at him to stock up with better skills or learn how to count better and not summon more people if he doesn't have enough skills. The old man snaps and pushes him away, claiming that a person like him with the ick of a bowling ball wouldn't survive even with the best skills. So he simply gives him all the remaining skills and pushes him down to the new world. He can't believe his eyes when he turns around to see a huge forest surrounding him. While he stands there all alone and scared, he suddenly spots a pouch on the ground and picks it up to find out that it has unlimited carrying capacity, which is a pretty decent item. But even with that, everything inside of it is as basic as my girlfriend. He soon does a drip check and tries to check his stats, but suddenly 2 dice appear on the screen. He tosses them, and they turn to M on both. He has no idea what the hell it means, but the stats tell him to put all that on a single skill. He wonders whether M means minus or something, so he decides to play it safe and gambles it all on the luck stat. To his utter surprise, M turns out to mean maximum, and now his luck stats are turned up to the maximum. He also finds out that since he is such a lonely duck, God has given him a pity ability with which he can tame wild beasts. He looks around to see whether any of his classmates are around, but there is no one in sight, so he decides to move forward and make his own house by taking inspiration from the 2 guys on YouTube that make houses from mud. He starts walking through the forest when he starts getting weirded out that some huge monster will peekaboo him. So he takes out another skill item, known as the contact lenses. To his surprise, the moment he puts them on, he gets the ability to see the stats of different things, which is a very important and helpful ability. He realizes that these abilities seem to be much more than what their names imply, and happily moves forward as he checks his surroundings to find herbs that can improve his health, anti-venom mushrooms, and much more. Coupled with his endless bag, he can easily collect as much as he wants and sell them as medicine for a huge profit. After rehydrating himself like a true Sigma male, he starts walking through the forest once again, where he suddenly finds an opening to a cave. He prays to God that there are no monsters inside, and then enters it to find anything of use. The cave soon turns very dark, so he takes out his lantern and magic tent, which he can easily set up here, and live peacefully. By the time night fell, Haru made himself more comfortable than Bear Grylls as he collected twigs and, with his temperature magic, ignited them on fire, which will also keep the beasts away. He checks his stats once again, only to find out that a bunch of his skills got leveled up, but he is too tired to check them out, so he ends up dozing off. The next morning, he wakes up with a jolt and checks the surrounding area to make sure he is still safe, realizing that his monster-repelling techniques must have worked perfectly. He starts feeling hungry, so he lights another fire and takes out his pan before searing some mushrooms and beef jerky like a true food YouTuber. The food turns out to be pretty good, and he wonders whether he can live a life here as a muscled farmer but realizes that he has no protein powder. So he goes out of the cave once again where he finds a bunch of herbs that can help him gain some muscles. While collecting the herbs, he hears a commotion behind him and finds a bunch of stupid goblins picking up from the ground. He immediately gets scared like the introvert he is and hides behind some bushes while the brainless goblins think they hear Goblin Slayer. That's where Haru draws the line and takes out his stick before he can get affected by that brain rot. He wonders whether his wood will be enough to deal with the two goblins, but just to be safe, he puts on some protection and then rushes towards them before hitting one of the goblins on his big, fat head. This wakes something up in him as he starts whacking the poor beast like a piñata till it gets knocked out cold on the floor. The other goblin gets scared but attacks Haru anyways. Fortunately for Haru, the goblin's attacks are pretty easy to read, so he easily dodges the strikes before whacking him on the head and then firing a small magic blast that seals the deal. After that, he washes his face as the sun starts setting and decides to head back home, as he worked a lot today. After reaching back into his cave, he roasts some mushrooms like a total hobo and checks his stats, only to find out that multiple abilities have been leveled up. This is very good news, but at the same time, he wonders what the goblins will do with him if they find him in an empty cave all alone. He quickly shakes the terrifying thoughts away and warms up a little with some exercise before heading back to bed. The next morning, he wakes up once again only to find mushrooms for breakfast, which is getting annoying already. He wonders whether he can find some meat, but immediately remembers how the vegans of his class would eat him alive if he ever said that. He quickly gets up once again and boosts his stats with some magic before heading out for the day with his trusty wood in his hand. He soon finds an item on the ground, which again turns out to be a shitty mushroom. He throws it down to the floor and starts searching for meat, which grows on trees like a total imbecile. Soon he comes to his senses and decides that he should simply start working on his magic skills and boost his stats once again. After that, he starts running through the forest and to his surprise, his speed has increased several times as his body feels very light and fast. Moreover, even his attacks seem to be quicker and stronger, so he decides to test this out on a group of goblins nearby. He immediately jumps into the battle and slaps the first goblin with his wood before smacking the second one on the head as well. This seems to enrage the goblins though, as the jacked one grabs a club. But Haru hides behind some bushes like a total and sneaks away. He decides that he has had enough for a day and returns back to his cave, where he thinks about the things he did that day before he starts working on some DIY projects like creating an IKEA table. After several trials and errors, by the next morning, he had gotten pretty good at it and managed to assemble a stool and a coffee table all on his own. He decides to tighten his security as well now that he knows how to build stuff, so he creates a wooden gate at the entrance of his cave to make sure no one can enter without his permission. That night, he goes out to hunt some small game as he can't live without meat any longer. Luck is on his side as he manages to spot a rabbit running away in the forest, and he manages to catch it like a feral cat. He starts smiling like a monster at the thought of the delicious meat when suddenly he feels the presence of other people in the area and gets on alert mode. He looks around and, to his surprise and dismay, finds a group of delinquents walking towards him. This really scares him as he doesn't want to get involved with them, so he hides behind some bushes and starts walking away quietly. But his idiotic senses start tingling again. He quickly uses his special sight abilities, which let him see everything around him, and to his surprise, he spots the classmates walking towards him from one side while the average Sam Sulek enjoyers and the creepy nerds walk from the other side. He decides that he wants nothing to do with them when he suddenly spots the vegan girls, led by the class president. He lets the bunny go and wonders whether he should meet with the class president since she has been nice to him and he has known her since first grade. But he stops himself with sheer will as he thinks about how amazing it feels to be his own boss, and he decides that he will conquer this world alone. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe for part 2, and we'll see you in the next one.